Okay.
Welcome back
to another episode of Chrysalis Collective, the podcast. I'm Alexis.
I'm Savannah Taylor.
And today we're going to be talking about titties. Titties are so fun. Okay, what do you call titties? I call them titties. They're really quote unquote breasts, right? If we're going med term.
Medical terminology. For the past over 6 years of my life, they've just been called nursies. Nursies. But if I...
Not mommy milkers. Have you ever heard that term?
Yes, I have. And what is currently on my body, I do not think you can define as mommy milkers. Maybe like 2 weeks postpartum, I got some mommy milkers. But no, I've only ever really used the term breasts. Like I've never felt really comfortable or confident embodying any other term. But I don't know if that comes from a place of shame or of like a lack of connection with sexuality or where that kind of started. But I'm excited for this episode.
Yeah, I'm just thinking about like in Spanish, I call them tetas.
Tetas.
Yeah. It's like, okay, really random, but one time I was at a postpartum client's home and they were showing me the Teton mountain range. And I was like, oh, that, because apparently they look like boobs and that's why they call them the Tetons. And I'm like, that makes so much sense because like tetas are that in Spanish.
Nice.
So random, weird fact, but I love how I don't love how there's like a sense of modesty about it, but I'm just thinking about going into like postpartum clients' houses and it's always like, oh, like some people are just like, whatever, don't care, it's a part of it. Like I know you see them all the time and other people are like
really modest.
Yeah, kind of like, are you okay with this? And I get it, consent, I love that, thank you for asking. But also like, I see boobs all the time.
You know? I love nipples. I've seen a million nipples. Like I have put my hands on so many different types of breasts because that's been my job. And I've also, it's part of my body too. And so it's a body part that I have become exceptionally comfortable with while simultaneously working on a relationship with for myself, because my own boobs have changed so much from being a teenager to now being a mother. So it's been a big journey for me.
Well, and it's a first sign of puberty.
Yeah.
Like, do you remember when you got?
Oh my gosh, yeah. So okay, I wanted boobs so fucking bad. I wanted boobs more than anything in the world. My grandma would buy me bras, or like I had to beg my mom to give me bras, but my grandma would buy me whatever the fuck I wanted. She would buy me padded red bras from Victoria's Secret.
Yeah.
13.
The bombshell.
Hell yeah, push up. It was great. So I was like trying to get boobs from like 3rd grade or something. And I had a good childhood friend, and she started getting starting puberty and getting more breast bud tissue, and I was just like so jealous. And I just remember being like, please God, give me boobs, you know? Yeah, right. But puberty didn't really pull through all that well. I never had I never really felt like I got the boobs that I kind of deserved, because I guess my mother had really large breasts, she had plastic surgery, but I didn't really compute in my brain, and I had seen pictures of her before, and she had really large breasts, and so I thought that genetically I should have this, and I didn't understand why, and I felt really self-conscious about it, because it wasn't like I didn't have any boobs, but I did feel like I had kind of smaller, average sized boobs, they were nothing that special, I wish I had the boobs that I had now back then, just kidding. I have come to really love them now, but teenagehood really didn't get, I felt just a little resentful that other friends of mine had bigger boobs than I did, and I remember feeling like just comparing myself to other girls in the locker room and things like that. It wasn't until I got pregnant and got huge boobs where I was like, oh, this is great. Like, this is the one part of all of this that I actually want to keep. But what happened to me, and it's happened with each of my babies, is that I will give birth, and I obviously, like, my milk will come in and my breasts will be really, really full. And then after my babies start solids, after they start sleeping through the night, and it's usually around the 9-month mark, my breasts deflate really, really drastically. They went from like super, super full boobs to like, I just felt so much shame, because they were like these just like soft, saggy, wrinkly things that I'm like, how am I ever gonna change this? Like, now I have one more part of my body that has just like, I have disconnect, like it's like there's a disconnection there. And so I really struggled with that part of my identity. But my youngest is mostly weaned. Like, she will nurse every couple of days for a few seconds. Like, it's not even real nursing, it's just a little bit of comfort. And so I have kind of gone through the weaning of most of it, and have you get breast tissue back. Like, they do kind of go back and get a little bit more elastic and whatnot. And so things have changed for me again, where I'm now like really grateful for what my breasts have provided, you know, for 3 children, and plus the kids that I've pumped milk for and donated for, and that like this part of my body has carried me through another huge transition. And I'm gonna sit with it, and I'm gonna let it be sexy, and I'm gonna let it be beautiful, just because it is, not because it needs to look a certain way.
Hearing you talk about weaning just brought up like naturally weaning questions for me, because I've had clients ask me things and I'm like, really good question.
Yeah.
Like, whenever you are weaning, how do you know when you're actually done producing?
Sure. Yeah, how do you know you're done producing milk?
Yeah.
A lot of people will continue to produce milk for weeks or months after they have weaned. And so it's also possible after you've weaned your baby that with enough nipple stimulation you can trigger some prolactin, and that there can be milk that's still there. And so I would say that it probably 6 months after you've completely weaned. If see if you're dry, try to hand express anything, but up until that point you can still produce milk. But as long as you're not uncomfortable, you don't need to
like that
express. Yeah. And when you are weaning, it is important to only express up until the point of you've relieved a little bit of engorgement, that you're not continuing to provide stimulation to the nipple.
I'm also thinking about like, as you are actually breastfeeding, chest feeding, body feeding a baby, and because all that I have ingrained into my brain is that it is a supply and demand thing, right? And so if baby, well, that then goes into like all the latching, and if the baby has a tongue tie or whatever, like apart from that, because there's so many moving parts to supplying someone with sustenance to continue growing. But when you are feeding, how do you know, like, is the breast ever truly completely empty?
No,
That's what I figured.
so it's not. I mean, everybody's body is different, and so I don't feel like I could give an exact no. But empty breasts make milk faster. They make more milk because you have drained it and you have told the body,
more room.
We have more room, we need more to put into it. And so that's why it is important to continuously feed your baby on demand to stimulate milk supply.
Okay, thank you for that. Because I feel like intuitively I've been like, it's supply and demand. So it's like, as long as there's demand, there's gonna be supply. Like, you're never really truly empty. So.
No, absolutely, yeah. So that's why when somebody comes to me and asks or says to me, I have a low supply, I don't feel like there's anything left there, or I just fed the baby, I fed the baby all my milk and they're acting still hungry, I have to give them a bottle now because my breasts are empty. That's not true. You can stimulate more supply. You've just emptied your breast. Now there's a bunch of whole empty milk jugs that are ready to fill up, you know? And so it is important from a lactation perspective to keep that in mind. But
stay hydrated.
Yeah, that's huge.
Huge part.
Definitely. I have a question for you.
What's your question?
Do you like to have your nipples sucked?
Oh, I love all of the nipple play things.
Yeah.
Like, I like pressure.
Mm-hmm.
I like pain, really.
Yeah, me too.
Like, yeah, I'm a big fan
Like
of
nipple
nipple play.
players?
I haven't used them, but I definitely want to.
Yeah.
I'm more of a fan of just like biting.
Yeah.
Biting feels great.
Unless you're a toddler with teeth. Do
Yeah.
not bite my nipple.
That's fair.
That hurts so bad. But if different scenario,
Exactly.
feels good.
Nipple play, I'm all down. Down for it. I love nipple stimulation.
One of my favorite parts of being pregnant, and there's like not very many, but is the sensitivity that my nipples get and like being able to orgasm from exclusively nipple stimulation.
A nipple gasm.
Yes, you can have a nipple-gasm. Yeah.
Okay, walk me through that because I need.
Okay.
How do you like get there?
How did I come from nipple stimulation? Vigorous. So for me, when I'm pregnant, at least, I'm just speak from my own experience, is I've had multiple occasions where I feel like my vulva is really engorged and just like really full because of the blood flow, and then there's like a lot of pressure on that. And so in pregnancy, I have had a lot of times where I have orgasmed without having to have like real stimulation. It's either been through my like feet, like different feet feelings have given me orgasms, or like sleep orgasms. I would say it's very similar to kind of, have you ever had a sleep orgasm?
No.
Okay, you should try.
How would I try it on the sleep?
Just tell yourself you're gonna come in your sleep, you know. But I would have dream orgasms a lot more commonly in pregnancy, a lot more frequently in pregnancy. And then I would say in this instance, it was just like a lot of sucking, and then some other like types of play, but nothing penetrative, nothing clitoral or anything like that, like just nipple stimulation, and the vulva like just feeling a lot more full. Like there were times in pregnancy where I felt, I was like, oh my gosh, like my cervix, like there's so much pressure built up in it right now, and so sometimes that would come out through an orgasm.
That's nice.
Yeah, I'm not complaining,
Great
but I
way
don't
to
really
relieve pressure.
Yeah.
That's cool. Now I'm excited to be pregnant so I can see if I can have a nipple gasm.
Yeah, you could probably figure out how to do it even before pregnancy, but that's the only time where my nipples have been sensitive enough to do it.
How do you feel like the sensitivity has changed through using your body for feeding?
Yeah, now I will sometimes like swipe a hand away. I'm like, stop it, you know, leave me alone. But I'm feeding so much less now, and I'm rarely latching for more than a couple seconds, and it's hardly really even latching. My toddler kind of just bites me for a second and keeps my nipple in her mouth, and then she's done. But sexuality-wise, I would say that, I mean, my nipples are still really sensitive. It still feels really, really good to have them played with, or I definitely identify with enjoying any type of like pain that's associated with it, which is just like so funny because if one of my kids while feeding tried and did that shit, they would be popped off the boob immediately. But in a different context, it feels really good. And it's interesting, like, it does bring up a lot of things about the intersection for me of like motherhood and sexuality. You know, that this part of my body, which I was kind of taught was a sexual part of my body, then I had to kind of desexualize it. But through desexualizing it, also really became very sexually connected to it, because realizing that my motherhood comes from this part of creation, and that part of creation within me is not dirty or wrong or shameful. It's the stuff of life, and it's the beautiful part of life, and I should be celebrating that. And there should be, pleasure and appreciation in that.
Yeah, hearing you say that you had to desexualize it in a way, I feel that, because being in postpartum spaces, I'm not looking at anybody breast and being like, oh, that's hot. Like, it just is. Like, you're feeding your child, and that's it. And so I had gone a while with like not being in a romantic dynamic with anybody, and so I leaned very hard into like titties are just titties, like they're just boobs, they are what they are. One day I'm gonna use these for feeding, like that's just what it is. And I'm having to step back into that space, similarly of being like, oh, but I do like these, but if they're on the right person, I feel that way towards them, you know?
Right space.
Exactly.
Yeah, I mean it's complicated, and it's not complicated. It's only complicated because we have just perception and a fear of being perceived and a fear of like saying something or doing something wrong. But the reality is that it's all just like really beautiful. And you feeding your baby with your breasts is a culmination of sex,
Exactly.
One way or another.
Like, we should normalize talking about sex when we're doing prenatals and all of the things.
I do. yeah, for sure.
I think, in general.
Definitely, we have that in our practice.
Exactly, yeah.
No, but you're right. Like, pleasure and sex should be at the forefront of all of our conversations about these types of transitions, because, like, that's where it comes from. That's
where you're literally created from.
Yeah, that's
like,
the energy. That's the energy. Source energy is sex energy, and it doesn't have to be heterosexual energy. It's all the same type of source energy. You are creating pleasure, you are creating life within yourself, and you came from that. And so, postpartum is the culmination of intimacy, and that is a really, really beautiful thing. It's also a really biological and normal thing. It isn't something to be like, oh, what is this, or weirded out by, or like certainly not inappropriately like voyeuristic about, but it should be something that is just revered for what it is. And so like when we step into those places and we think about like our clients are feeding with their bodies for the first time, and that's a part of their body that they had a separate relationship with up until now. Like where are you? How do you feel about your breasts? How do you feel about your chest and your body now?
I want to start asking that more. Yeah, because I think it can be dysphoric to some people.
Sure, I was gonna say,
to have that
definitely.
kind of,
for trans folks especially.
Exactly, like that needs to also have space. And it's like, it's okay if it doesn't feel like this amazing, beautiful, like, oh, I get to feed my, just.
Especially if your nipples are bleeding for the first time. You've never had bloody nipples or cracked nipples, and you've never had mastitis before. Those types of things can make it feel like really, really uncomfortable very quickly. And so, I think that just having this conversation makes me think about integrating that more in my lactation practice and in our postpartum care with people, because it is a very real sensitive thing. That's a part of the body that is also open, like very open energetically, like you're very close to the heart, and that's where so much of ourselves lies.
I'm just thinking about nipple piercings.
Yeah, I never got my nipples pierced. I wanted to, but
Me too. Why? I think, what my thing was? I didn't want to get nipple piercings and then want to breastfeed and like for them to like have pierced me badly or something and not be able to.
So fun fact about nipple piercings and feeding from your nipples, if you have nipple piercings, you might have an easier time with feeding your baby, because there might be bigger holes for the milk to come out of.
Maybe I should get a pierce now.
You obviously cannot feed a baby with nipple piercings in, but also, yes, anytime you do any damage to the areola or to the nipple, anytime there's scar tissue there, you have to consider that. You have to break it up. But I didn't get my nipples pierced. I did get a tattoo on my boob, I think, instead. I did want to do something.
That's what you opted.
Yes.
Somewhere around the titties.
Yeah.
I've always imagined myself with a tattoo in the middle of my boobs going down. I'll get there one day.
Yeah.
I'm focusing on my thigh first.
I like it.
Do you have any other fun things about titties? Let's talk about nipple shapes.
Okay,
Because that's
there's
such
a
big
lot of different types.
nipple shapes.
Yes, I know. And just
also,
directions.
yeah, and like I'm like holding my titties right now because I'm like deconstructing shame about like your areola size or your nipple size or what color they are.
The direction they point in, how long they
exactly.
are. Yeah, there's so many different things. And I mean, I remember like seeing other boobs for the first time and being like, wow, those are different. Those are just different, you know, and then seeing more and more boobs and being like, wow, those are different, those are different, those are different, those are different. They're all different. And I think that's amazing at this point now. It gives me so much security in myself to feel safe in who I am because I have just seen the variations from people, person to person in terms of, you know, what your breasts look like, what your chest looks like, and your nipples and areola, because yeah, you can have everted nipples, you can have inverted nipples, you can have flat nipples, you can have a larger areola, you can have just a smaller areola with like, you can have the areola large areola, small nipple, you can have just all sorts of different types. Nipples can point down, nipples can point to different directions. One nipple can be flat, one nipple might not be flat, you know. There's all different types of things, you know.
And it's pretty common to have different size
Oh,
breath as far as
absolutely.
like tissue goes.
Tissue-wise
I think that's
and
something
shape-wise.
Yeah,
Yes,
that people
100%.
feel more comfortable. It's like one of the things that's like, yeah, one boob's bigger than the other. Like that's one thing I feel like people admit a little bit more comfortably than necessarily like getting down to the nipple of it all.
Yeah.
But if you want to know about my nipples, they are pretty brown, but not like super brown. They're not like dark brown, but they're brown still. With like a pinkish undertone. And that's my areola. And then my actual nipple is like maybe like this big. If you're watching us on YouTube, you'll know exactly how big my nipple
So
is.
probably like a 19mm flange size.
Something like that. You might even be able to see them. They're not hard. It's not cold enough in here.
No.
But I think that's something that in high school I remember people talking about. It's like, oh, your nipples are hard. Like if you're wearing sports bra, and it was like such a thing. Like I have to tell you right now that your nipples are hard. But it's like
That's
so weird.
That's so ridiculous.
Like yes,
Oh
I have these.
Yeah, it's cold in here. My nipples get hard. Yeah, I have smaller areolas and smaller nipples. I think that like they're longer now because they've been sucked on so much that they're way more elastic. And so I'm like, let me check on you. How's it going? But I have. Like my breasts have gotten very, I don't remember from 10th grade geometry the difference between convex and concave, but whatever they're flatter on the top, and then they kind of curve, and then there's like more tissue at the bottom. Yeah. And I have some stretch marks at the top, obviously from just like things growing and shrinking and growing and shrinking, and my nipples themselves have stretch marks are a little bit more they're just a little bit more like wrinkly, almost softer, and then usually when they're colder that goes away, you can't see that, and they're just like hard nipples. But when I am colder, you can see like a lot more of the stretch marks from the goosebumps will like kind of put more, I don't know, just define it a little bit more. But I remember when I was latching my daughter in the hospital, and the lactation consultant was like, oh, you have breastfeeding nipples, which by the way is not a real thing.
All nipples, if you want them to be, can be.
Yeah, there's a lot. Babies also they don't nipple feed, they feed on the entirety of the body part, and so that's a silly statement. We can talk about hospital lactation consultants another time. But I love all breasts at this point in my life. Like I just have so much appreciation for them, not only because of what they can do physically, but because of what they mean to people that have them. They're oftentimes just like a really sensitive part of who you are, and they're just a really soft part of who you are, and they should be treated like that, even if feeding a baby or just out there and, you know, with your partner or by yourself. Like love on your breasts, love on your nipples.
And I'm here for the movement of people just ditching bras.
Absolutely.
Because they are a trap. You don't need them.
You don't need them. Do you wear them?
Not if I can avoid it. I only wear them to work out, to be honest.
Yeah,
I
that's true.
purposefully buy tops that make me feel supported enough.
Mm-hmm.
And I'll walk out to the grocery store in a t-shirt, a big t-shirt, and not care.
Yeah.
Like, I just don't care anymore.
I'm
not gonna put them in a cage just to make you feel comfortable. You know?
I hate wearing bras, but I also will wear them because of a fear of being seen. Not wearing a bra.
I mean, I will wear it to work for sure.
Oh, I'll wear. Mostly, I wear bras to work so that babies don't try to sniff any type of milk that I might have. You know, like you don't.
I'm not that for you. Sorry.
Get confused there, but yeah, I'll definitely wear them to work. But even like out in public, depending on kind of what I'm wearing, I'm like, oh, is this something like, is my armpit hair and my nipples gonna be showing in this? Like, what kind of, are people gonna look at me and think like I get self-conscious still? And if I'm feeling too self-conscious about how people are gonna perceive me, I will put a bra on for that purpose. But like most of the time, I hate wearing bras now. I used to go from like, yeah, give me the Victoria's Secret bombshell to, I don't even know what my bra size is. Like I bought sports bras at Goodwill, none of them fit, you know. And so now I just try to avoid it entirely, like when I'm at home and as much as I can.
Yeah, I think bras, to me, if I'm gonna wear one, it has to make me feel cute. Like it has to be something that like enhances what I'm feeling, not like trying to fit into any kind of space that I'm going into. Although they do play, you know, a part and they have their role when it comes to quote unquote professionalism, but that's also something we can talk about.
Yeah,
quote unquote professionalism.
For sure.
Exactly.
I know, I hate that.
Yeah.
Like that just feels so icky.
And that makes me think about how I consciously go into spaces where I'm going to be holding space and very much maternalize myself, like desexualize myself as much as I possibly can in the clothing that I'm wearing, in making sure that my ass isn't too out or that I'm not wearing anything that's too form-fitting because you can see my shape or my curves. Like,
well, I don't have to worry about any of those things.
I feel like I got these from my mom, and I got this from my dad, and they're always out, and I embrace it, but not when I'm at work, and I hate that. But I'll play the game, you know, even though I don't like to. That's a whole other thing.
All right, well, you can subscribe to our OnlyFans
where you will see up close nipple pictures. Both Savannah and I. You have to guess which one's the left or the right.
Ooh, that'd be a fun game.
Maybe we should do that in the DMs.
All right.
Ask for nipple pics in the DMs on Instagram. If you made it this far.
$15 is what I'm gonna respond back.
And it's only for one.
Yeah. It's really
up close.
Really up close.
Literally only.
You get some of the Montgomery glands. That's all. Oh my god. Okay. Well, anything else about boobs?
We'll think of something.
I bet. I believe in us.
We'll make a nipples and titties part 2. Titty Talk part 2.
Titty Talk part 2 comes soon.
Yeah, coming soon. Ask us all about titties. Submit your own titties if you want.
We would love that.
Exactly.
Actually, that'd be great for us.
I love that.
Yeah, we'd love that.
Well, we are the Chrysalis Collective. I'm Alexis Ramirez.
I'm Savannah Taylor.